I feel like debt is one of those taboo topics because everyone has it, but no one wants to talk about it. Now, 90% of Americans hold one form of debt or another, and at least 1 out of every 2 Americans has credit card debt with an average balance of $14,000. So it's crazy that it's not talked about more. Now, I personally, once upon a time, found myself with $60,000 worth of credit card debt that was just lingering over my head, and I felt like I was never gonna be able to get rid of it. So in this video, I'm gonna share my story of how I paid off $60,000 worth of credit card debt in 6 months and how you can too. There are so many strategies that exist out there on the best method to pay down your debt. We all know what we should be doing and even how we could do it, but what is it that stops us from following through? And then the next thing you know, a couple years go by, that debt continues to follow you. Every month it comes around the payment date, you make that minimum monthly payment and you put it off to another day, and it just continues to build and build and build and weigh heavier and heavier on your shoulders. Well, in this video, I'm gonna break it down into 3 steps, not just about the strategy you can utilize, but how you can actually execute on it and make it happen. Now, for me personally, I ended up using Dave Ramsey's avalanche method to pay off debt, which basically means you take a look at all of your credit card accounts or loan accounts that you have, and you start paying off the ones with the highest interest rate first while making minimum payments on the rest of your accounts. And as you pay down those accounts, you move on to the next. Now, we'll go a little bit deeper into that strategy later on, but I truly believe that the first step of paying off your debt and having that plan and to be able to execute is really figuring out what your why is. Why is it so crucial and so important for you to pay down this debt? Now, when you kind of analyze most debt strategies, most people will say that step 1 is to figure out money coming in and money going out so that you can get a good picture of what's happening. And I think that's true. But in order to execute on, bringing down those expenses and allocating that money to your debt balances, you have to understand why. So as I began my own process of really kind of holding myself accountable to paying off debt, I had to ask myself, why is it so important and so crucial that I do this and that I get this taken care of? At the time, for me personally, I was still young, I was still starting off in business. And one of the things that I started noticing is that opportunities would come by to where I could expand or grow my business and really start to flourish from a young age, but I couldn't take advantage of them because I just didn't have the extra money or even just brain capacity to kind of take advantage of those opportunities. And as time went on, literally years, it started becoming so painful that I would have to turn down these opportunities because I just didn't have the extra resources to kind of take them under my belt. And I think a lot of people find themselves in this position. And what I learned is that human behavior really comes down to 2 things. We either react to pain or we react to pleasure. And that's actually how most people end up getting into debt anyways, right? You end up getting into debt because you're trying to move away from pain. Maybe, you want to go out and travel, but you can't do it because you don't have the extra money. So you think, I'm just going to put this trip on a credit card and, deal with it later. So you're moving towards pleasure and away from pain. So for me, I realized when I had to keep turning down those opportunities and I couldn't expand and I was just constantly stressed out about having enough money to make the payments on my credit cards, it was just becoming so painful. So that's when it dawned on me that my why I had to pay down this debt was because if I didn't do it, there was no way that I could progress in life and reach my full potential. So step 1 is to really kind of think deeply about what is so painful or what is it that you can do to move towards pleasure with paying off your debt. And once you discover what that why is, why it is so important that gets ingrained in your mind and becomes a part of your mindset, which is going to help you execute. Then you can definitely break down all the money coming in and money going out and start to analyze your income versus expenses and start cutting out the things that are unnecessary. But you're never going to follow through and execute on your extracurricular spending and cutting that out if you don't understand why you're doing it and what the mindset is behind it. So seriously, if you are really thinking about that, now is the time. You're not going to live like this any longer. I really encourage you, pause this video right now, go get out a piece of paper and a pen and really think about and write down why it is do or die for you to pay down this debt. Why is it so crucial? How is it going to make a difference in your life? What is so painful right now that paying down this debt is going to get you away from that pain? And then we'll get into step number 2. If you're liking this video so far, make sure you smash that like button. Step number 2 is what I like to call burning the boats. This is probably the hardest part about making sure that you execute on a strategy, because you really have to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation where there is no exit strategy. There is no other option other than executing on the plan and getting it done. You're going to make yourself uncomfortable. You're going to cut off all things that are a distraction to you, anything that could tempt you to spend money on extracurricular things that you should be cutting out. Now, at that point in my life, I had taken a look at my expenses, money coming in, money going out. And I saw that, I was traveling, I was definitely having dinner with friends and family, I was living out on my own, I had a pretty expensive place that I was living in rent-wise. And I just thought that if I could just suck it up for 6 months and kind of struggle through that time, I can really free myself of this debt. Now, for me, I was extremely fortunate that I had the option to move back home. But it was extremely difficult for me because I think in my mind, I was thinking about all the judgment that I would receive from the people who are in my life. And I just thought to myself, well, if I move back home, everyone's going to think that I'm a failure and that I couldn't make it out on my own. I didn't know how to be independent. I was irresponsible. And so it took me a really long time to make that decision and take that big of a step. But I knew if I moved back home, I was going to be far away from all the things that were causing me distraction, and it was going to really free up some of the things that was really taking up a lot of the extra money that I had. And so I really had to bite the bullet because I thought to myself that at the end of the day, no one else is living my life. No one else is living with the stress of having this debt, and no one else is losing out on the opportunities that could potentially make my future other than myself. I'm sitting here having all these expenses, living with this debt, trying to keep up with this life while everyone else is progressing, and I can't take advantage of the opportunities that I want to because I have this giant debt burden. So you know what? I'm going to take the hard step now and make the difficult choices now, burn the boats now, so that later on I could be free. I could always move back out. I could always get another place. I could always have my independence back. But this kind of feeling of being stuck in this mountain of debt and stress, no one else is going to feel that other than for me. So for step number 2, I think it is extremely important that you figure out how to burn the boats. Now, you may not have the option to move back home or cut out your rent or your mortgage, but you can definitely cut out extracurricular activities, right? If that means socializing and going out to dinners and going out to travel, I know a lot of people think to themselves, well, what am I going to tell people? What are they going to think? I mean, honestly, you might just have to write it off as, hey, listen, I'm taking on a 6-month personal project. You're not going to see me for a while, but I'll be back. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you better yourself for yourself and for no one else. And this is why in step number 1, it is so important to define what your why is. If you don't know why you're doing this and why it's absolutely a must, Not a, oh, I should do this, I could do this, but you must do this. That is the mindset that you have to lead from. Otherwise, you will definitely default on your plan and you won't follow through with your execution. So ask yourself at this very moment, how can you burn your boats? How can you eliminate any exits, any back doors, and any opportunity for you to kind of take a step back from your plan and not follow through? Identify what those things are and eliminate them, because that is ultimately what is going to hold you to your goals and keep you motivated. Now, for me, this was a point of pain. Leaving my independence, kind of leaving my social life, my friends, and just my daily routine, right? It's just change at the end of the day. Taking on that change is painful. It's not comfortable for anyone, no matter what the change is or whatever level it is on. But I knew that if I put myself in a position of pain, I would do everything that I could to move away from pain and to move towards pleasure. Because remember, those are the two things that make humans react. That is what's going to make you tick and follow through on your plan, is to move away from pain and move towards pleasure, like it was in my case. And step number 3 is increasing productivity and making more money. So at this point in the process, I knew exactly why I was doing it. I understood my money coming in versus my money going out. I burnt my bridges, so I understood that I needed to eliminate these expenses so that I can allocate it towards my debt balances. And I didn't want to have any cheat days. I wanted to be laser focused, so I got rid of my living expenses. I took the hit to my pride. I moved back home regardless of what the judgment was from the people around me. And now I needed to really ramp up productivity and figure out how I could make more money. Now, in order to pay off $60,000 worth of debt in 6 months, I needed to be allocating at least $10,000 a month towards my balances. And I did not want to use my savings account because, of course, you still have to live. You do still have bills like car payments and health insurance and all the little things that you still need to do. So I needed to figure out how could I make more money and how could I do it quickly. Now, because I had burnt my bridges, I no longer had any distractions. I wasn't making plans on the weekends or weeknights, no going out to dinners, nothing like that. So that really opened up my time. And now that I had time, I could really focus and get creative about what else I could do to make money. So at that time, my business was building websites. It was a very basic skill that I had. I didn't know how to code. And for any of my nerds out there, I was using GoDaddy's website builder in order to do this, which was a really easy plug and play option. Anyone could literally do it. And I was already working with the basic clients, but I had to figure out how could I go out and get more business. So I remember at that time, I would literally just get on the phone and make cold calls. I would Google businesses that were in my local area. I would take a look at their online presence and I would genuinely approach them from a perspective of adding more value to their businesses. Now, many of these businesses already had websites. Maybe they weren't that great. And I would spend a lot of time just analyzing their businesses. For example, I remember working with a restaurant. They had a website, it was very outdated, but they were really missing a lot of basic and fundamental things. For example, they didn't have great images of their food. They didn't have any good pictures of their menu. There was no story about where that restaurant came from or what inspired it. And so I remember cold calling that restaurant and just approaching the business owner with, hey, you know what? These days, people, whenever they go out, they're always going to Yelp, they're looking online, and they want to see what is the food, what is the experience, and your website doesn't have any of that. And literally, I remember closing that deal from one phone call, and it was a cold call at that. And so that's exactly what I did. I would just go online day and night, just research businesses and think about, okay, how can I add more value? Can I put in the time to really help this business and genuinely approach it from that perspective? Now, of course, everyone has different skill sets. Everyone has different things that they can do or time that's available to them. I know for most people, you work a regular day job, maybe 9 to 5, you have family obligations, and so it's really difficult to find that extra time to take on more work. But this is where burning the bridges is really, really really important because you want to free up your time to increase productivity. So maybe that means you drive for Uber or Lyft in the evenings. Maybe that means, you're really good at assembling furniture, and so you put up a listing on TaskRabbit, charging an hourly rate to build furniture or hang up TVs or help with, kind of like handyman type stuff around the house. It is really unlimited to what you can do. And maybe you're at a point where maybe you don't even have a skill set that you feel confident in. And so you need to entirely adopt something new. There are so many amazing programs online these days that are absolutely free. There is an amazing Google program called Grow with Google, where you can literally take these 6-week programs through Google themselves for free, and you become certified by Google for performing certain jobs like becoming a data analyst or learning how to do user interface design. So the possibilities are really endless, but that is why you have to burn the bridges, because if you don't open up your time and free yourself from any possible distractions or anything that's going to tempt you from kind of defaulting back to your old ways of spending and taking any extra money that you have and spending it on other things other than paying down your debt balances, it's going to kind of make it really difficult for you to execute on the plan. So these days, you really have to take advantage of the amazing kind of platforms that exist, even like Turo. If you have a car that maybe you're not utilizing, maybe your car payment's a bit too high, and if you can free up some of that cash to pay towards your debt, that would be amazing, and that would really help your situation out. So you could list your car on Turo part-time. So the possibilities are truly endless, but you cannot take advantage of them unless you know your why and you burn your boats. So that is what you need to do in step 3 to really increase your productivity and make more money. It is absolutely crucial because you don't want to eat away at any savings that you might have, and you want to always be prepared to take care of any expenses that are an absolute must and necessary for day-to-day life. So this is how you're going to make more money so that you can continue to allocate that towards your debt balances. Now, as promised, I said that I would talk about the strategies that I utilize. So those are the 3 most important steps to get your mind right and to physically put yourself into a situation so that you can actually execute on the strategy. Now, you can find the strategy that is best for you, but these are the 2 best strategies that I've come across that I think are really simple and easy to understand and very easy to follow through on if you put yourself in the right situation. Now, I love Dave Ramsey's debt payoff methods. He has 2 of them. The first one is called Avalanche, and that's the one that I personally use. And again, you're going to look at this from the perspective of pain and pleasure because it depends on what you as an individual respond to, and that's going to help you decide which one is best for you. Now, I really resonated with the Avalanche method because I respond better to pain, and I wanted to get myself away from that. In the Avalanche method, you start off by paying down your balance with the highest interest rate while making minimum payments on the rest of your accounts. And the reason why that resonated with me the most is because when you're spending money on interest, it's literally going nowhere and it's not helping you out. It's only helping out the credit card company. So for me, that was really painful to continue to make all these interest payments on top of the principal amount and it not helping me out at all. All my hard-earned money going to waste. So I started with the Avalanche method. I started paying off my balances with the highest interest rates. And all you want to do is just make a quick, simple list of every account you have, the balance on each account, and what the interest rate is on the account. And then you're just going to go in order of interest rate. Now, the snowball method will kind of resonate with a different type of person because in the snowball method, you will pay off your smallest balance first, regardless of what the interest rate is. And the reason for this is because it's going to give you some positive reinforcement if you respond really well to pleasure. Now, if you pay off your smallest balance first, it gives you a little bit of a win and momentum. So it makes you feel good and you feel like you're making progress. All right, one account down, let's go to the next one. And that is why it's called the snowball method. Now, again, there are numerous amounts amounts of strategies that exist. But it doesn't matter what strategy you choose unless you are in the right mindset and you know why you need to do this and take care of this now. Why do you have that urgency? So in order to execute on any strategy of your choice, you have to know why you are doing this. You have to burn the boats, and then you have to increase your productivity and your ability to make money. That is what's going to ultimately give you the momentum and the ability to follow through on it. And you can finally get rid of those payments, stop making those monthly payments where your balances just continue to grow and they just follow and they linger you. It's a very depressing state to be in, and one that is just so underwhelming. It literally is really stopping you from making the progress that you can make in your life. So I really urge you to learn from me, learn from my mistakes, and learn from sort of what I discovered from paying down my balances. And I was able to accomplish $60,000 in 6 months, and never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I could do that. And I did it. And it didn't matter what people thought. It didn't matter that I was missing for 6 months because I was focused on this one task. And today, it is like living a whole new life because you now have this ability to make more money, you're more productive, and you know how to execute on things. And that's a skill set that you can literally apply to anything in life, and you can make progress and you can move forward. And my life is better because of it. And I truly hope that this helps you out if you ever find yourself in this situation. So I just wanted to share my little story with you guys. I hope you guys found it helpful. I look forward to talking to you guys down in the comments section below. And thanks so much for listening and tuning in.